get to 50 and cross 50 on Instagram, and also we are live on Facebook, and we are set for today's special session. I'm being joined by a great Nigerian, someone I respect so much, and we all is the fact that he is a complete Nigerian. He's a gentleman. So I am waiting for my special guest. Once I see him, I'll bring him in. And then in the meantime, we can have some music. We can have some music as we bring him in. Yeah. So how are you generally today? I hope your day has been good. I've been busy all day, so I'm just waiting to see my special guest. And then we roll. We're waiting for Mr. Charles NWODO. Some very, very, very special Nigerian. Very simple, very humble, despite his accomplishments. You know, we bring you the best on this platform. So if you see if we can bring him straight in. Thank you. Hey, Brother Charles.
The one and only Bob D.
Brother Charles, how are you?
Ageless, timeless.
We're following your footsteps. So it's the only financial wizards who should always remain consistent. Journalists too should be consistent, you know. So we have to work very not easy. How are you? You are looking
fine,
looking well.
You too, you are looking well. In fact, you're looking better.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, the usual protocol is we'll welcome you with music so we can relax you. You can get your cup of tea or coffee, whichever you like. I have mine ready. So if you have your cup of coffee or tea or juice, whatever, feel free. Yes. I have the forever living tea. Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers, man. Cheers. Nice to connect with you.
So we start with the music. Thank you.
Never leave me, no forsake me. She did the most, the most. You're taking me higher. Jesus, my life is full of glory. So they embarrass me, oh, I like it, oh.
Wow, wow. That was a very good one. Very, very good one. You have some fans on Facebook already dancing for you. Yeah. So, yeah, once again, good evening. I should call you Doctor. Yes, Doctor.
Mr.
Charles NWODO.
Mr.
I know you like to be called Mr., but you are worth more than 10 PhD, as most of my viewers will discover tonight. So I'll quickly introduce him. His profile is very intimidating, but please bear with me. It's not something I can just say offhand. So I have it ready for you. Mr. Charles NWODO Jr. is the executive chairman of EXL Africa, Africa Group Limited. Charles NWODO is the founder and executive chairman of EXL Africa Group Limited, a services group with active operating subsidiaries in diverse sectors of the economy, including management, industrial maintenance, oil and gas, real estate, security and protection services, and so on and so forth. Only one man, oh, just one man. You can see how busy chairman is. The group also operates fully. So it's a Pan-African board of trustees of Knowledge Exchange Center. I'm interested in that. Okay, can you imagine that? Which is the CSR vehicle of the EXL Africa Group. Mr. NWODO, now listen to this. One was Switzerland, as well as the Harvard Business School, Boston, Massachusetts, USA. The New York Institute of Finance on Wall Street, and he has bachelor's in engineering degree in civil engineering, master's in business administration in finance and investment, master's in development policies, wow, and practices, and other certificates and diplomas. He has a rich and very depth of working experience covering stockbroking, investment banking, and commercial banking. Before resigning to set up EXL Africa Bank PLC, now took over and turned around the then Crystal Bank of Africa, which became Standard Trust Bank PLC. Mr. NWODO's areas of interest include entrepreneurship, youth mentoring, non-political community and national development activities, Christian evangelism and philanthropy. He is widely traveled and belongs to a number of clubs and associations such as Indigo, Lagos Foundation, Ikoyi Club 1938, Christ the Redeemer's Friends International, Engineering. No. I've jumped it. It's longer of Nigeria Engineering Faculty Alumni Association, and is also a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers, honorary fellow of the from 1980. The communication of Indigo Lagos Foundation, the director of communication, Christ the Redeemer's Friends International, Victoria Island chapter. Mr. NWODO is a voracious reader. Yes, that we share in common. And he swims. No, I am afraid of water. And he loves to watch football and extreme sport. Your place looks a bit dark. I think you need more light, sir. You need to apply to your face. It's very black. He is married to Doctor. You can see when you are that brilliant, and they are blessed with two lovely children, Kenechukwu and Chidi Naobim, and the family, of course, is resident in Lagos. That's why I say I love his profile. He's a complete Nigerian, lives Nigerian. is very much at home everywhere. Yeah, is there any solution to this light, sir? It's very dark. It's looking. There must be some light somewhere. Even if you're able to open a laptop or something in front of you, that is light. Face. There are comments already. People, unless that we can hardly see. Yes, Azu Arinze, what an intimidating profile. You are right, Azu. You are very right. Good evening, Azu. How are you? No. I knew you were going to miss this session for all the gold in South Africa. Good evening, my viewers. Good evening. If that could work, that would have been nice.
Why it's not working? I don't know why it's not showing.
And it was brighter earlier on. It was very bright.
It's only showing my face now. I'm taking it further back. Let's see.
There must be a way. Yes, my staff, they have a way of doing it whenever NEPA takes light or whatever you call it now. They take the light and they can use, there must be a touch on one of the phones that they can put on your face. We do that sometimes. Okay. That phone.
My people are suggesting maybe I should leave and rejoin. Maybe it will be better.
No, it's the light. It's not a light. So since
you have studio light. In fact, you have studio quality light.
Yes, I have studio lights here. In fact, I have two. I'm just using one now. If I turn this around, you can see how big my light is. So, it's huge. Yeah, that looks better, but how it will remain stable is the problem. Okay, maybe we just have to go on. Yeah, but is it affecting your eyes? If it's affecting your eyes, then we would have to. Okay. You need to read the comments. You will laugh. Someone says, very interesting profile. This is the kind of leader we want in Nigeria. The man is not a politician. He's not a politician. Business people run away from politics in Nigeria. They don't want it. Okay, I think we can just continue to manage if that is the... They said they can hear your voice, so the voice is good enough. Yeah, we can go on. No problem. We can go on. Yeah, that's fine. So, introduce yourself to our viewers. We have loads of people waiting to hear from you right now. And a lot of them obviously know you already, but some won't know you. So,
okay, Bobby, thank you very much. It's a very uncomfortable situation. You know, Nigerians, it's only politicians that know how to do these things. Some of us, we just like to get on with it. But my name is Charles Momodu, like Bobby said. Most of my education is in Nigeria. Yeah? Eba and okra soup. Am I a politician? No, I don't like discuss Nigeria problems and issues. I have friends from Bob D and I have that in common. So Bob D is a true Nigerian.
Thank you.
We in EXL Africa group, we try to be a truly Nigerian company. We have people from all parts of Nigeria in the group, and in fact, all parts of West Africa, actually. I am interested in this program because, apart from the fact that Bob D is my friend and somebody that I have admired over the years. In fact, your generation is going extinct. I was telling somebody that, part of the problem in Nigeria is that there are not enough good stories. And so young people are growing up hearing only bad stories, and therefore assuming that all there is to Nigeria is bad, and everybody in Nigeria is a bad person. And to succeed, you have to be bad. And so when this program was muted to me, I just felt led that maybe almost this atmosphere and hopefully inspire one or two persons, to say, look, yes, things may be tough. Yes, there may be all kinds of issues in Nigeria presently that are depressing. But this country has potentials. There are good people in this country. And there are people who work hard, who believe in the old-fashioned hard work, as the only means of achieving, self-actualization. Let me not even talk about success, and that as bad as the situation may be, it's a phase. And at the end of this exercise, we can have a conversation and somebody will be uplifted, somebody will be encouraged, somebody will be inspired, just by listening to us. And so I am happy to be here on this forum, Bob D, and I thank you very much and all the people that have joined, and I'm looking forward to an exciting interaction.
Thank you, sir. Let me tell my viewers briefly that we have to practically drag him to talk. Is a very who are saying the man sitting in front of me has changed many lives, and that should be a legacy for any one of us. How many lives have you changed? And so I consider it a pleasure and a privilege that you agreed. I've met them all over the world. All the continents I've been, there is nowhere I've been that I didn't see Nigeria doing great things somewhere. So we may have challenges for now. As he said, it will soon pass away. Now, I'd like to take my guests back to their background right from primary school. What was life like time on this platform? So we're not being rushed at all. With his internet, so I'm sure he will join us in a minute. It needs, if you can hear me, you need a well-ventilated area where you can have better signals. It's a signal problem. Thank you, Mr. Chooks. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes, you are right. He is the humble giant. That is true. These are the stories our young ones should listen to. I pray many will join and many will watch after we've uploaded them. Wow. Okay, I think we have issues connecting. NWODO, could you kindly just send me a message? Let me see. Just send me a message, hello, or a wave or something. Yeah. I can see you, but it's not letting me in. If you could just send me a message, hello, or something, or just a wave, we can try to bring you in from there. Why is it? Why is this so difficult? If you could just, yes, let's try this. Good. Fantastic. Oh, I'm doing Palace of the King that
Right.
got born,
No calls.
provided the opportunity for it. The perfect faith. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
About
So-
your primary school, yes.
Yes, that's right. Yes. I started primary school in 1970, actually, straight out of the Civil War, So naturally, I started from the village in my place, Ukehe. And shortly after that, my father was reabsorbed into the East Central Civil Service. So we moved to the regional headquarters. And then I transferred to a place called, the school in my village was St. Peter's Primary School. Then I moved to Nsukka Central School. I was granted a waiver to speed, so I jumped one class and then finished in Form 5, in Primary 5. I took my common entrance in Primary 5 and then went to secondary school. Again, in Enugu, a place called College of the Immaculate Conception in Enugu. It's a Catholic school. Left very, very interesting time of my life. Left there in 79 and was admitted to the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, to study civil engineering in 1980. It's a 5-year program. So I finished in 1985. Did my youth service in a place called Bending Kebi in Sokoto State. When I was posted, when my NYSC posting came out, my mom started crying. What was I going to? Who was I going to go with? Travel, not who I was going to stay with, but how was I going to go? So anyway, so I went to Benin Kebi. Then Benin Kebi was part of Sokoto State. So I did my primary assignment at a place called Polytechnic of Sokoto State. And it was funny because in my class, I had directors and permanent secretaries. I had never seen anything like that. And then I finished, again, NYSC was exciting. I met some of the people that later became my friends. In fact, I met my boss, then Tony Elumelu in Sokoto State, where it was an interesting time. Finished youth service, came back to Lagos, got invited by one of my uncles to work with him. Worked for, I think, a year and a half, and decided to go back to school to do an MBA at the University of Lagos. Joined a stockbroking firm. In fact, I founded it. I practically registered it because I was training and then registering it. So I started what they called Ole. Ole is a trainee stockbroker. That's what. So you have to carry the bag for your trainer. So I did that. Finished, then did some stockbroking. Did some investment banking also on the back of it. And then in 97, Tony Elumelu sought me out and invited me to join him after he acquired, his team acquired Crystal Bank of Africa. Worked in Crystal Bank and then became Standard. After the successful combination with UBA, I left Standard Trust Bank stroke UBA and then founded EXL Africa Group. Then it was called EXL Management Services.
Wow. So somewhere in between, you were a student union leader. I couldn't imagine someone as soft and gentle, as charming, and you are an ajebota, as we say, in Lagos. So being a student union leader, I would expect someone more rugged and all that. How did you get into that?
Very interesting. I was actually an activist. Don't be deceived by my look. I'm still an activist in many ways. My activism just started in my second year in the university because I was surprised that, in those days, the university used to provide beddings, used to have lunch, chicken on Sundays, and so on and so forth. And so I noticed that in the cafeteria, many students would come in and there were no plates, there were no cutleries. It didn't make sense to me. So I asked around. Nobody could offer me any explanation, including the Dean of Student Affairs. They say, they don't know how many, they can't help it, you guys have to figure out. So I just wrote a petition to the Vice Chancellor. And I said, why? You are the one who approves the admission of students. There's no student that enters this university without your approval. So you should have an idea of how many students you have. Why is it impossible to provide enough cutlery and enough crockery to cover this number of students and even have a buffer? So when I sent the letter, my friends were laughing at me and saying that they will rusticate me. Why that? Are you not afraid that they will rusticate you? So one day I was sitting in my room and the chief security officer came looking for me. So my friends started, saying, see, they told you, good for you. Don't say, instead of you to be reading your book, you're busy writing petition to the VC. So we marched to the VC's office, and lo and behold, the man said that my letter was very constructive, that in fact, I'm the kind of students he likes. That this question, there's no way he would have known that students were going through this kind of experience. And that, he encourages me that I should, and that, by the way, why don't I consider joining the students' union? I said, I'm an engineering student, sir. Said when I came out, I forgot all about it. But, subsequently, I just wasn't happy the way students were being represented. And I thought that I had a better contribution to make, especially the lack of activism. I don't know how much you were involved in students' unionism in those days, but the entire East was so dumb, so cold. In fact, the radical side of labor and unionism in general was just maybe the middle belt and the southwest. Whenever you call the strike, this entire schools in the southeast will not even participate. So I decided to plunge into it, maybe to change the narrative. So I contested. It was hotly contested. Went all the way to our court, to our Supreme Court. We had students' union courts, court system. So the court ruled in my favor, and I was sworn in. My tenure was hot because that was during the reign of Buhari and Idiabo, this same president that we have today. Now he was there, the president, and about the unionism in the southeast, So, and really, it was a testy time for the whole world, because remember, that was when you had apartheid in South Africa. That was when you had the liberation struggles going on. So there were so many things that people could challenge and speak out about, across the world. So really, if you join the nationalist struggle, as it was. Larry Arogundade was the president of NANS. We had people like Chris Mama, who later joined the Atiku and so on and so forth. We used to. I've forgotten how many times I was locked up. The me that you're seeing, it doesn't look like that, but trust me, we had a rough time with the law enforcement authorities. I knew how the inside of many police cells in Nigeria look like, from Kaduna to Port Harcourt to different places. So we were fighting in our own way. Perhaps we were a bit, maybe we had ideological purity, but we were fighting for a better Nigeria in the way we understood it, and we were hoping to be part of the generation that will bring about a better world, because we were also, as part of our demands, were pushing the Nigerian government to exert pressure on the apartheid regime in South Africa to free Nelson Mandela and unban the ANC. We were also fighting for freedom in Zimbabwe, then Rhodesia. We were fighting for free and qualitative education. We were fighting for different things, So at times it was inconveniencing. We all inhaled tear gas. We were beaten. At the time, my family didn't even know where I was. I was declared wanted, in fact, at a particular time, because I shut down the university.
Wow.
And the vice chancellor wanted to overrule me and went on NTA to order students to resume. So we had said that students, unless they heard from me, they should not resume. So they couldn't find me. Meanwhile, when they broadcast, we set up our own pirate radio station where I was broadcasting to students. We play national anthem. And I would broadcast to students. So it was very tough.
With prison. That's prison.
We had military administration at that time. So a gentleman called Colonel Omerua was the administrator of, I think, Anambra State. And a relation of mine was the commissioner for education. So she was sitting in the council the day the government officially declared me wanted. She broke down with tears after the meeting. Said, and poor Charlie was going to, maybe they will kill me, But look, it was an important phase. And when I look back and I compare that with what I see with the young people of nowadays, I just don't know what has happened. Whether there is no more courage, there's people, the courage of their convictions is lacking, or it's just that people, maybe there's a different DNA among young people now. They don't seem to believe in anything. They don't seem to agitate for anything. They don't seem to, even put themselves forward, in a responsible and consistent manner to create a better society for themselves. I find this extremely confounded, to be honest with you, But anyway, So that was a phase. I had to go back to make sure I passed my exams so that I could graduate from the university. Yeah.
Wow. Because I want to ask, how did you manage to combine activism and your studies?
Especially as an engineering student. And, because engineering is heavy on practicals, you have to do a lot of lab work, and physical attendance is actually mandatory. So it doesn't matter how much you score on the theory, but you have to show up in the struggle. And I'll forever remain grateful to those guys.
Is dark again?
Is it better now?
Yeah, your headroom is okay now, but we need more lights to your face.
Okay, we'll deal with it. So anyway, tell him to bring the lights. It went dark again. So my colleagues, you know what? They took turns to coach me whenever I went to maybe Zaria or went to a NANS meeting or rallies. By the time I come back, they would take turns to teach me, bring me up to date. This is the subject, we revise, and then I'll prepare my own submission, and then I'll submit it, and maybe that night again I'll take off for my degree.
Wow.
So, we had a bunch of committed classmates. I will forever remain grateful to those guys. They believed in the struggle, they owned it, and they made sure that I wasn't rusticated, and is owes to them because they took it as part of the struggle. In fact, their own part of the struggle was to help me to make sure that I did all my assignments. No matter how late I came, even if I arrived back at school at 2 a.m., they will be up and waiting for me. We'll go through the assignments, and then I'll write my own portion of it and hand over. Not making a first class or even a 2-1, but at least I graduated with a decent 2-2, and I'm grateful to God and my colleagues for that.
That was a huge sacrifice on your part.
Yes.
And did your parents know you were into activism?
Oh yes. They knew. I had my late father was very liberal. He's the only question he asked unionism when I told him I wanted to contest, and I said, look, in those days you had to do vacation job. So the previous year I did vacation job, and I think I saved something like 800 naira, which was a lot of money, at that time. So I told him, you remember I still had that. He said, okay, so you're going to use that. I said, yes. He said, okay, no problem. Pray for me. And I couldn't wait to run. If he didn't approve of it, then I would not be able to contest, even if I could sponsor myself, But my friends were wonderful. By the time I got back that night, my room was like a beehive of activities. These same friends of mine, they had printed T-shirts, they had printed caps, they had done posters on their own. So I just broke down and started crying, because even if I had any doubts about going ahead with the contesting, the mere fact, the kind of commitment they demonstrated left me with no choice but to go ahead, with the I think it gave me the opportunity to reclaim my self-confidence, and also understand Nigeria for what it, Nigeria a little bit more. In those days, there was a whole lot of radical literature available. We had all the Marxist youth movements. You had then Russia was under socialist rule. We had all kinds of documents smuggled in from Russia. We had all kinds of documents from China, Mao Zedong. We had
from China.
And we were really, genuinely, then we had all the Fidel Castros of this world, Che Guevara's, revolution, and so on and so forth. And we were genuinely expecting that the world will create a world where there was no inequality, and that where our effort will result in a world where on the basis of race, on the basis of ethnicity, on the basis of gender, education was accessible and available to everybody. Do you understand? And in fact, at certain ages, it will be compulsory. Those were the charter of demand we articulated at that time. That education should be compulsory, at a certain age, and should be free at all levels. And we did the mathematics, and we said, look, Nigeria can afford it. And at that time, you can imagine what the country would be today. Of course, we saw through the imperialist designs, that was, and the effects that the rapacious greed of their local collaborators, who were milking Nigeria dry. That's why you still have the problem of corruption in public service, and people still steal money with impunity. And the country is not moving forward. There's no development in the manner that you and I will be proud of, and so on and so forth. We're just moving around in circles, essentially. And the gap between the rich and the poor is growing wider and wider. The population of unemployed is increasing. Infrastructure is zero, no health facility, no universities, glorified, become like glorified, to students sort them out for exams. In our time, all these things, we foresaw that these things were going to happen. And that's why the Nance Charter of Demand was articulated. And if only our government had listened to us, I believe we would have a better country. But anyway, today I'm a businessman and I'm an entrepreneur. A different kind of struggle.
See that you have not completely forgotten student unionism and the terminologies. The comprador bourgeoisie, the Oloi.
Yeah.
I can see that you were still firing bullets just now.
Yes.
Wow, interesting. But today, are you in touch with any student union organizations whatsoever? And if you meet them,
we try to engage with some universities, especially my alma mater, so when I and so on and so forth to them. But beyond that, yes, that's all I do. I just reach out to them, encourage them. I'd say, listen, this thing you're doing, there is a time and season for it. Just don't think that this is the end. And then I of course, they learn from me. I share experiences with them and encourage them, and so on and so forth. So yeah, that's what I do. Not only for students, labor, student unions, but also for the entire labor, the entire labor comrades in the labor union. There are still quite some of them that are still involved in some the time. But when I see them, because the trajectory is different. I busy myself now with young people and disadvantaged people can get a fair share of the prosperity that this country, that God has blessed this country with. So it's a different kind of struggle, and the terrain is slightly different. But that's what we do now. Since we can't be going to Samaru, at night, the roads we used to travel, or going to Ife, going to the Ibadan Polytechnic, arriving in Ibadan at 2 a.m. for 1 meeting. The body is weak.
Wow. So growing up, there must have been people or books that inspired you. Could you share them with us? What was your inspiration while growing up? Because these days, it's like people just find everything boring. All you do now is sit on social media and just abuse people, attack people.
Mm-hmm.
We're not doing a lot of positive things with this positive social media. Social media was supposed to change the world positively, but most people prefer to use it negatively. So, but your own time, you didn't have social media. So, what were you engaged in?
Okay, there were two levels, I would say, 2 levels in my evolution. Growing up, I was an altar boy. I actually wanted to be a priest. I wanted to be a reverend father. So, in the younger phase of my life, I was just completely devoted to the church. All my holidays, I would spend them in Paris. I would clean the sacristy. I would change the vestment. I would go for masses with him. I would be the master, and on and on. And I was happy. I didn't feel I was missing anything. My colleagues would go home to all their parties and all their socializing, and I would just go to the parish, and I didn't feel I was happy, Now, the later part, which is the activity, my principal was called a gentleman called Father Charles. He came. His nickname was Odobro, Samankwe Odobro. Everybody loved him to bits. You just had to love the man. He was just a wonderful man. He didn't try to mystify level, so we could relate with him, So if anybody inspired me at the time, he was. And all through my secondary school, I was like the chapel prefect, I was completely responsible for keeping the chapel clean, managing the church finances, offering collected. I think I led a bit of accountability from that, because the principal just delegated all of that management to me. Now, when I went into the university, one person inspired me. I forgot to mention that in going for Students' Union, John NWODO, he was actually the president of the Students' Union at the University of Ibadan. He was the first non-Yoruba to be to win that election, and it was inspiring, and he also had a sterling political career, because at a very young age, at that time, he was active in politics. He was in MPN. Then he later became minister at a very tender age. So he really inspired me. Something interesting happened. When I won the Students' Union election, one night, about a week after I won the election, one night he drove to, they just told me somebody was looking for me. So when I came downstairs, I saw a car with policemen. I was surprised, Then he wound down the glass and called me Charlie. That's what they call me in my family. So I walked up to him and he said, I was shocked. I said, is everything all right? He said, yeah. That he came specifically from Lagos. Lagos was the capital. He came specifically to Lagos to see me. I said, see me? Why? He said, to congratulate me for my victory in the Students' Union election. That he followed it and is very proud of me. But that the more important reason why he came to see me was to tell me what his father told him when he won the election in University of Ibadan, that when he won that election, his father told him, you won this election, and the name you use to win this election, make sure that you don't spoil that name. And then his father now placed him on a salary of £30 every month, just so he doesn't touch Students' Union money. So he told me that he's going to place me on a salary of 300 naira every month. And to make sure, even though their government shortly after was toppled, but I've never forgotten the impact of that council, because not that I would have stolen Students' Union money, but look, for somebody to come out with a very impactful word of advice, it was something that I cherished. And the university then, was transiting from a managed Students' Union facility to an outsourced Students' Union facility. So I think the university community was up in arms about how to handle the process of privatizing the cafeteria system, privatizing all those things. You remember, the government suddenly announced that they were no longer going to have anything to do with students catering. So we were going to outsource this, and then we had to invite tenders from contractors, from different people to come and participate in the bidding for it. He had confidence in me that I should handle that, coordinate that process. It was a lot of money. Inviting me to exotic places just to favor them. But that word of advice kept ringing in my ear. And, we executed that privatization process. It was so transparent. And kinds of maladministration.
Wow.
But, when I left, I actually got a letter of temptation that, to compromise and so on. And really, I was so touched, he didn't have to do it. But each time I thought about his admonition, the thing kept ringing in my ear. You mustn't be seen, not even that you shouldn't do this. There should be no perception. For a young man, that carried a lot of weight, you know.
So how did you migrate from engineering to business?
To business, right? You know, was building all kinds of exotic structures in the desert. The Middle East. So I came out hoping that I'll probably join Julius Berger or any of these big, express my talent, you know, my training and so on and so forth. But you know, by the time we finished youth service, SAP, you remember Structural Adjustment Program? SAP crept into the
Bangida.
I'm telling you. And the thing, you know, all the engineering companies, in fact, were retrenching workers. So engineering became a no-go area.
Wow.
And an important part of that liberalization was the financial services sector, if you recall. So people had to I had to transform myself in order to the exam, did an MBA, and essentially finance and investment person. Okay.
And so getting into bank before now, when unlike now where you have everything computerized and all that, I'm sure you belong to the analog generation. So most things were manual.
I felt my love was investment banking. That's why I went to train as a stockbroker. I found it exciting, more mentally. I found commercial banking so boring because he was trying to convince me to join him in Crystal. He said, Charles, you know, I change the banking industry. And, you know, I fell for that. And look, it was how prophetic it was. To be fair to him, fundamentally changing the way banking is done in Nigeria, because we started at Crystal Bank at a very, very difficult stage in the Nigeria banking history. If you remember, there was no bank from ACB of African Consumer and Commerce. Targets the underserved part of the market. Those things that other banks would normally not want to do. What were these areas? went into public sector, for example, and I'll tell you a little bit about public sector. And we went into independent oil and gas services. At that time, everybody was running after the big oil companies, the Shells, the Totals, the Chevrons, and these guys were so arrogant that when they would negotiate you down to the last, but you see, just to have them in your balance, in your accounts, and was such a prestige thing that most banks would not want to, do without them. So we knew we couldn't compete in that sector. So we identified the Charles NWODO, the Dele Momodus that had an LPO from Total, but they didn't know how to, or they had a small contract, a supply contract from Chevron, and no bank was willing to take a risk on them. So if a first bank would lend money to a Chevron, how can we lend money to a Dele Momodu that had an LPO from Chevron? Went into it, and it paid off. We did a similar thing in the public sector, because when I was appointed head of public to develop the public sector banking, I didn't understand it, and in fact, unfortunately, nobody could explain public sector to me because he had no precedent. But I went to see the Accountant General of the Federation then, Mr. Nayeji, very nice man. So when I went to his office, I still remember, he said to me, he thought I was coming to ask him to give me deposit. So I said, sir, no, I didn't come to ask you for deposit. I came to learn. And he's a very intellectual man, So he was shocked. He said, this is the first time a banker will come to my office and say he didn't come for deposit. He came to learn. So, okay, now I have books. In fact, I want you are going to be my friend. So I told him, I said, I want to understand how the public sector fund management system works. How does it work? If I want to lend money to a government agency, what is the general of the Federation? I begged them. They also explained it to me. So I took my team to Kaduna National Teachers Institute in Kaduna on a weekend. Invited the Accountant General, invited the Solicitor General. So we developed a template for public sector banking, and that's what led to, we did it so aggressively that, we started making so much money from public sector. People even began to suspect that we were doing some other things, but really it was the kind of incisive knowledge that we gained, and and because we were the ones who understood it, who created it, the bank wasn't burnt when a lot of banks started getting burnt. Public sector lending, we had already exited because we knew the risk, we dimensioned the time, we scoped it, and then moved on. So we did was retained because my MD then, Mr. Lumelu, really allowed us to express ourselves. He allowed us to do things. Okay, other things we did, for example, you recall then to open branches, you had to apply to CBN, submit a business plan for that branch, then they approve it. So there was a limitation. You couldn't even open branches. Meanwhile, we saw opportunities in some branches, So we managed to, and also constraining in terms of your ability to reach out to the banking public. So the rapid expansion of our branch network, gave us kind of visibility, gave us validation, which we needed also, given the fact that we were an entity in recovery, and then enabled us to grow our customer base in a very, very significant. Well, the thing paid off. And I tell you, it was other banks started copying us, but it was tough. It was tough at the beginning. I won't tell you lies. We used to have area boys, bailiffs. But they would jump out of the office. They would carry computers, carry cars. The few customers we had, they will have to go and beg. Okay, we had brilliant, committed team, down to the managers at the business office levels, and Tony was able to assemble some of the most committed crop of young men and women across all sectors of the thing, and we did the industry. And I was excited. Every day was new. Look, some days I'll come to work and from can even rob and have money. So having money doesn't mean you're successful or you're at the top. So I'm assuming that your question, I'm just trying to paraphrase your question in a way to say to succeed in Nigeria. I think to succeed in Nigeria, number one, the one important bit of resilience, you must never give up, because you would have difficulties, you would have challenges, you would have the light. You would have challenges for sure. You would have they will tell you that, if you don't belong to this association, you can't get this. You be a resilient person. You have to just keep going. You try, you fail. They tell you all these things. You fail, you keep going. So that go is that you have to be able to build your business that you seek to do. You know, where if you don't know, if you don't have local knowledge, you might even find by the time you finish doing the business plan and incorporating the company and spending all the money to import the equipment, you 1 month's time. You know, banks go after them, and that will be the end of the business. So, for me, local knowledge is critical, especially in Nigeria. Local knowledge and important relationships. You have to know people, and you have to know what time it is in that new head of DPR is appointed. You can't be knowing about it 1 month after. You must know who the technical assistant to the GMD of NNPC is. You must know who the NNPC person is. You must know the type of relationship that you have to find out where the people go to, which restaurant do they frequent, because you cannot be going to where Telos, where fabric people at Gota in Balogu market, and then you want to become an oil and gas person. It doesn't work like that. Or you can't be going to where ICT people or entertainment people hang out, and then you want to succeed as an oil and gas entrepreneur. So cultivating those relationships, managing them, very, very, very important. Very, 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 very important. Okay. Then, of course, the other thing is, how do you spend your time? Some of us want microwave success. You just put it tomorrow, you get it. But there's nobody I know who didn't have to work long hours, stay the extra hour, make calls, respond to mails, read, attend conferences, lucky, and they can get things, by grace and favor. But if you're already wired to hard work, then grace becomes even sweeter. Do you understand? Favor works a lot better for you, but hard work, there's no alternative to hard work. And then, the Nigerian factor, like I always say, I always think that people have to believe in something, because I'm a Christian, okay? But I do business with Muslims. I do business with people who believe in other things, but I am a Christian. I always think that people should believe in something, because you have to have an anchor. If you do something with somebody who doesn't believe in anything, then there's no limit. You can't even predict what the person will do. And then you turn around and say, I thought this person was this, So one of the things you need to surround yourself is partners, because of the unreliability or the unpredictability of the justice administration system. I always believe that it's better to prevent conflict than to navigate the tortuous part of dispute resolution. It's draining, it takes time, and can oftentimes even discourage people. So preventing it, building structures that make sure that you do it right first time, I think helps. I think that those are the things. I know there are other things.
What of Godfather is in a mafia nation such as Nigeria? I've always maintained that Nigeria is a mafia nation. Like, everything is controlled by one cabal after the other. If you complain about cabal now, the next government will have its own cabal. So how do you deal with them?
True. That's why I said it's possible you can have money. You can use cabal to get money, but cabal cannot help you to run a sustainable business. You build all those businesses you hear about, like Google, like Facebook, like UBA, like Zenith, like Dangote Group, and so on and so forth. They are not products of. It's not just because somebody, knows somebody else. I tell young people, if you identify, first of all, if you apply yourself to acquiring knowledge about whatever it is that you're passionate about, that you want to do, people, you may not succeed immediately, but over time, even those people who have money, they'll be seeking to knowledge. People, even the man who has, I don't want to be involved in the running of my business. Just take this money and stay away. Where they will look for the person who has the knowledge, who is talented, and run the thing. Now, in terms of entrepreneurs, if you take yourself, Bob, when you started this profession, because I followed you from the days of Concord, first of all, your journalistic career is excellent. And I thought you were going to become like Nduka. As somebody who is a people person, who just likes to celebrate people, make friends, and it comes effortlessly to you, but you'll be surprised how difficult this thing is. This talent you have, you'll be amazed how difficult it is, So enjoy it. Can you imagine doing what you enjoy? Doing a work, something they don't enjoy. And then managing to, but if you can build your business or establish that success is just a matter of time, One of the things that the post-COVID era is going to force people to do is to rethink the education. Or does the education, because now most people are studying at home using the internet. So when you say you have Nigeria, you have 6-3-3-4 education system, that's primary school, secondary school, university. If a child is precocious and is able to know everything they need to succeed in 4 years, why would the person go and spend time, sitting down in one lecture and of education is open for interrogation. So I'm saying, but talent and passion are things that God has imbued each and every one of us. And, if you can identify what your passion is and follow it and try to build profession, get it properly organized, you will be successful. This is something I learned. A young man came to my office when I was in the bank with, wanting a job. After 3 interviews, he was interviewing for different jobs. He just couldn't succeed. So I sat him down once because I liked him. And I said, what are you good at? He thought for hours. He couldn't remember anything. I said, you must be good at something. The fact that you're alive means that there's something God has deposited in you. So find it. So what he now said to me that people are always laughing at him when he says something. Even when he says the most ordinary thing, people will laugh at him. I say, really? So he said, how? I said, you can make money from it. So anyway, we debated. Luckily for him, we were having like a quarterly get together in the bank that we weekend. So I told him to come and compare it, come and be the MC. So he did it, and throughout that event, people were laughing, clapping, So they kept asking for him, So I told him, I said, you see now, I think we paid him something like 50,000 naira. That time it was a lot of money, He was beside himself. I told him, I said, go. He wanted to go to school. I said, you are wasting time. Anyway, long story short, if I mention his name now, you will know. He's a comedian. He's making money out of comedy, And his fees are in millions. If not for this COVID-19, he's one of the people that makes money from this. So people, I know that a lot of young people believe that, you have to have white collar job, you have to go to 9 to 5, you have to do this, you have to do that, And that's why sometimes the society seems hopeless for them. But Nigeria is full of opportunities. Nigeria is full of conversation with themselves and forget about what Mr. A is doing or what Mr. B told them or what this man, they say you go and see that man at night, go and see the other one in the day, go and meet that juju man, go and meet that prayer man, let him give you white handkerchief, let him give you anointed oil, job will come, this, Just sit down with yourself, ask yourself, you must be good at something. I've seen people, basic thing, training dogs, training pets, training dogs, doing this, doing so many things that people can do. So many things that people can do. And so that for me, that's distinct. If, for example, now, like my friend, when he started doing, but you are not asking yourself, do I like this thing? Is it some? Do I like to serve people? Do I like to do? And then when they fail, as predictably as they will, they start complaining that the system is this, the system is that, the system is. Granted that we have a system that doesn't help people, but we can also do a lot to help ourselves,
Wow. Now, another very, very crucial question too is you must have confronted many obstacles in the course of your journey, your epic journey. How did you manage those obstacles?
When we started EXL Africa Group, how did we start EXL Africa Group? We started, I told you at the time, as soon as the bank then became stable and became like normal, it just became another commercial bank. And somebody like me, I just getting up in the morning to go to work was now something I had to do. So, but I didn't have any money. I didn't have anything, but we had ideas. I knew that there were services that banks were carrying for themselves that were not core to their activities, that had nothing to do with banking. So I identified some of these services, proposals and justification to banks about why these services are not profitable for them to continue to handle. Initially it was not easy, because I had everybody knew me as a banker, and the first question was, so how are you part of UBA? Why should we give you business, to empower our competitor?
We know our secrets.
Are you sure this is not another trick by Tony Lumelu and his people to take over the whole industry, through the back door? So, well, these were legitimate questions, but
Valid.
again we persevered and let our work and our integrity speak for itself. And over time, we got the acceptance we got in the industry, you know. And then these same banks were now requesting us, you know, requesting our services on their own. And that's actually how we started. You know, we started from this, then as the banks were, they were also dragging us along, because when they go to Ghana, they find that they already used our standard, you know, and they can't find that kind of standard. They don't have time to start going around and looking for, you know, service providers who they just say, please come. And the same, that's how we started expanding. And when we perfected that, we now decided to export the same service to other sectors, you know, like oil and gas, like manufacturing, because we already had that template. You know, we had the system, we had the personnel, the experience, you know, experience basket. Of these services as separate businesses and subsidiaries on their own, you know, and that's where we are. You know, they have all grown now. We still service a wide range of industries using those same techniques, the same experience, the same models that had worked for us, you know. So there will be obstacles. Clearly, one of the biggest challenges we had, let me tell you a story. In 2006, we set up a cash management company called Integrated Cash Management Services. Because it was a new line of business in Nigeria, I just felt that it was important we secured the services of a technical partnership, you know, from the developed world. So these people didn't want to come to Nigeria. But we ended up with a South African company that was owned by the 4 biggest banks in South Africa, you know. So it was interesting because South Africa is just next door and part of the Africa continent. So we went into a joint venture with them for 7 years. For 7 years, that joint venture was a stalemated relationship. It was a stalemated relationship because the people are the company is actually one of the last vestiges of white domination. So all the officials there are white. When I go for their meetings, you just see like 20 white people like this, and then you see only me. You see only me sitting there, you know. So the culture shock was difficult for us to manage. These guys were nice people, decent. I'm telling you, till tomorrow, they are very nice people. But you see, because of the cultural differences in society, where the only black man they knew was either a gardener, a security guard, a cook. Do you understand? Yes. Or a thief, a burglar. Do you understand? So they couldn't get used to sitting across the table with somebody, I mean, like that could even be their employer. It was alien to them. And as simple as this thing was, but I'm telling you, this thing was such a big problem in our relationship. And put side by side, we needed the resources and the expertise that these people were going to bring. And to make matters worse, you know, because I was in this relationship and the regulators and the industry knew that we were in this partnership, they didn't understand what I was going through. Everybody just simply thought that I was frustrating them. They had money to bring, but I was frustrating them, you know. I wasn't letting them bring in money, you know. So for years, you know, I was in agony. I told them, buy us out, let us go and do something else. They they say, oh, okay, if they buy us out, they will look for another Nigerian company to work with. So they engaged, hire half years and thousands of dollars. They couldn't find anybody, because anybody they found, they would ask them, why are those people leaving? They say, so they couldn't find anybody. We now said, okay, let us liquidate this company so that we can have our peace of mind. He said, no, they are lawyers advise them that if we liquidated the company, they will be for litigation, so creditors will go after them. So they refused.
Wow.
My brother, I've never seen anything like that. I went to church. I know the day breakthrough came. I went to the High Commission, Nigerian High Commission in Santa, because I had a meeting with them. And the High Commissioner saw me and said, you're going for this kind of meeting. A law must give me protection. So they gave me protection with a flag, Nigerian flag, with siren. So I drove with siren to their office for the first time. So when those people saw me, they say, what is going on? So the embassy, the consular economic attaché that went with me told them that, in fact, the government of Nigeria is not happy about the way they are treating me. They say, really? They say, really? Oh, okay. So, they now had a meeting among themselves and said, if the government of Nigeria doesn't like it, that means it is risky to continue to do business in Nigeria. I'm telling you, just like that. They now said, okay, I should offer them any amount I wanted to buy them. That day, I had prayed, I had fasted. I said, God, I have come to the end. My wisdom, my knowledge, my contact, everything has failed me. Please rescue me, help me. God, there was no other way, nothing else could have. And even when we negotiated the disengagement, it was so friendly. As we speak, they are still our technical partners. Wow. Because when they were offering, when they were disengaging, because the hand of God was in it, they said to me, Charles, we want to continue to be there. We want to continue to remain your partners. I was looking at these people. for 7 years, we were fighting, we were standstill. So it was, and that's, again, another lesson for people, because difficulties will come. But like I always say, if you believe in God, then trust God, because really God comes through. I don't know how he does it, but he's alive and he works. When you ask him, he will answer you. It was the most difficult thing. I intend to write a book about this, actually, because I just summarized it. If you were here, you will understand a bit of that era. That phase was the most difficult thing. Nobody else, even the central bank, tried. They couldn't solve it. They couldn't resolve it. Because it was beyond anybody's understanding. So that's the most difficult thing. And now we resolved it. Taking full ownership of it, and with the support of the Central Bank of Nigeria, we're expanding. So that's the most difficult thing. Of course, the day-to-day things about not getting this approval, delayed this, delayed that.
Over-regulations.
Over-regulation, those are, and then difficulty in enforcing regulation, or, government changing policies and Nigeria roads were designed for Nigeria economy.
Wow. Wow. Well, I think I saw Mr. Ubong King watching the program. Good evening, Mr. Ubong King. How are you tonight? Of course, I saw my sister you today. How are you? Now, could you tell us again, bullet points, what you do at EXL Africa? Because it seems you do too many things, so if you could just have them one by one.
We don't do too many things. Our model is simple. We are a diversified group, but because we are also integrated, so we use a common platform to service multiple clients across various sectors of the economy, and we offer these services in form of outsourcing, human resources and services outsourcing, facilities management, project management, industrial maintenance. We are one of the oil and gas services. We do procurement, we do engineering, we do manufacturer representatives. We do security and protection services. We also do defense supplies. We represent one of the biggest global manufacturers in the defense sector in Nigeria. We do a full-fledged logistics from the entire range, from courier to clearing and forwarding to we do what else? Am I forgetting? And then we developing one of the biggest real estate assets somewhere in the South. We're also, as part of our facilities management, we are also developing some very, very important and high impact projects related to the Train 7 project of the LNG in Bonny Island. Now, these same services, we replicate them in all the jurisdictions, in Ghana, in Liberia, and Sierra Leone, where we operate. And then each of them is organized as a separate active subsidiary with a managing director and then integrated cash management. So we distribute, we process and pack. We are one of the two companies licensed to process cash in Nigeria.
Wow.
Yeah, that is it. We're looking forward to a stable and more prosperous Nigeria, so that we can continue to expand our footprint. We have a staff strength about 6,500 permanent employees. So really, when they are talking about job creation, we are the ones they should be talking to, so that we know a thing or two about how to create jobs.
Wow.
That's who we are. We are a fully Nigeria franchise, like I said, with an African outlook. Projects. Our project delivery franchise has taken us African Republic to Sudan. Because when you work with some of these specialized customers, whenever local expertise in those places, they don't even know how to procure certain things. They don't know how to deliver, move goods. If you build a house, let's say in South Sudan, and you want to bring world-class furniture. How do you go about it? From Togo, for example, into Niamey, in Niger Republic. These are the kind of specialties that we have. So even though we are not big, but and are able to give us enough repeat businesses to keep us the way we are. And that's part of the reason we are not very aggressive in advertising, because really those who need our services, know where we are and use our services, So I don't know if I've
no, you've done very well. I mean, this is something one would have had to pay for, to go to Harvard Business School or go to Oxford. This is really nice. I'm enjoying it. I was going to ask which of them is your flagship operation?
I am a bit sentimental. In terms of revenue generation, and that flagship is usually our outsourcing business, because our outsourcing business is the mother of all of them, and has remained resilient and keeps improving. And there are all kinds of lines that are being added to it. But in terms of sentiment and emotion, I think it's the cash management business, because of the reason I just explained. I always say that one is God's own business specifically, because it is the way it is a miracle, and it can only go and require all kinds of levels of clearance, security clearance, background, all kinds of disclosures about yourself, your businesses, etc., etc. So again, that also imposes certain restrictions on yourself about how to conduct yourself and the kind of relationships you get into. But of course, we set it up needed to understand how the non-profit business works. What is it that makes people who work in Ford Foundation wake up in the morning? What is it that makes Bill Gates? How does this work? I've always been used to meeting targets, surpassing targets, as a motivation. They teach us, capitalism teaches you that profit is the greatest motivation for success, But for some of these people, obviously something else must be motivating them. For a Jimmy Carter to come, wear khaki, and be going to the talk about all kinds of things. Surely there must be something. So I went to do a master's in the University of Geneva in development policies. So that led to the setting up of that, Today, we took that step because since we set it up, we've empowered thousands of young people quietly through the collaboration with the Lagos State Government, Ministry of Wealth Creation, the Ford Foundation. We run, some flagship programs like the career workshop. We assembled thousands of people, thousands of young graduates. We put them through rigorous workshops and trainings, and try to match them with jobs. From CV writing to how to dress up, and how to present themselves before employers, and what to do when they, the kind of jobs to seek, and just essentially, because what we find is that, as part of my program, that there is a disconnect between the curriculum in our universities and tertiary institutions and the requirements of employers. That is a major problem in Nigeria. They still teach courses, classics, European. I'm not saying these are not good courses, but in the light of what our current realities are, that's part of the reason the graduates appear to be unemployable, because if you look at the newspapers, there are many organizations that are looking for people to employ for different jobs, but they can't find the skill sets that match these requirements. So that's the gap we try to fill. So we do the gap network. We also award scholarships. We award a scholarship, 25,000 euro scholarship for an all-paid master's program in the same University of Geneva. We've done that. But the most important leg of our program is the advocacy program, because we want to orchestrate in our bureaucracy and the industry that requires jobs and the people who design the curriculum, so that our curriculums can be automatically updated to reflect the real needs of the industry on a regular basis. So after the COVID-19 shutdown, we plan to, go to Abuja for a major seminar, awareness seminar, to try to engage with the lawmakers, because it's a very important. If we can close that gap, of employability, things like the university curriculum can be localized. Spend some of my time doing. Hopefully, I'll be able to free myself from some of the day-to-day businesses of the group, and try to focus energy and time in this area.
Tell us some of the things, some of your encounters from country to country. For example, currently there seems to be some uproar, some controversy between Nigeria and Ghana. How does this make you feel, or how does it affect what you do when, for example, you have ECOWAS, but going to ECOWAS countries, you have the Francophone countries, you have the Anglophone countries, and their temperament seems to differ from place to place?
Well, it's so sad what Nigerians are going through. But you would expect this kind of backlash. Success always breeds some form of backlash, some sort of discontent, envy, and so on and so forth. But what is condemnable is when the governments, become either complicit or negligent about these kind of activities, But the last time I checked this problem, from the roots, because we cannot be talking about Africa Free Trade Agreement, ECOWAS.
Headquartered in Ghana.
Headquartered in Ghana, ECOWAS free movement, protocol, and then we are still talking about Ghanaian traders, Ghanaian government harassing Nigerian traders. not in this day and age. We should have progressed beyond this, and it is in the interest of both governments that they resolve this issue. My experience, what the model we operate is, even though we have subsidiaries in each of these countries, but these subsidiaries are actually fully owned entities, in these countries. For example, our Ghana subsidiary, for example, is a Ghana company by all intents and purposes, and it is managed by Ghanaians. So it is the model we adopt in Sierra Leone. It is the same thing. It is
very smart.
Sierra Leonean business managed by about Nigerianization, because it is creating employment for the local folks. It is essentially empowering those people to play active roles in the local economy and express themselves to the full of their ability. So that helps, and that's the model I'd like to recommend, because sometimes also the structure we put forth, sometimes it produces unintended results. You are doing business, but sometimes when people see you as dominant or as overly, they see you everywhere, they want to buy this, they see you're speaking your language, they begin to feel threatened. And election is coming in Ghana, so sometimes some of these things also maybe the ordinary people.
Nationalist sentiment.
Exactly.
To never happen. So whereas in Nigeria, if you want to do any business, to get a mortgage is almost an impossibility. So it puts pressure on people. Sometimes people start from need and then they graduate to greed. People start stealing slowly but steadily, and then boom, it goes into greed because there's too much financial pressure.
You're right. I think luckily I serve in a committee, a federal government committee that is designing the vision, what they call Vision 2050. So our call the medium-term economic program, because this current plan, ends in December 2020. So there's a medium-term plan 2020 to 2025, and that we are designing. And then there's another one, 2025 to 2050 also, which we are designing. And one of the important elements, because I'm in the business environment subcommittee of that committee, elements that we were discussing, how do we expand the economic base, okay? And how do we engender financial inclusion, greater financial inclusion? Because the reason why what you described is happening is because of the structure of the financial system. The structure of the financial system is short-term. We don't have, people see big banks and they post billions of naira, but the truth of the matter is that these banks that you have in Nigeria are not really, they don't have that kind of robust balance sheets compared to if it's in dollar terms. They are really small banks. So the the point being, there is the informal sector in Nigeria. I think what we haven't done and what the government and the financial sector themselves have not done is to try to deliberately expand the active economic base in the country. Do you understand? Because it is when the banking system will have long-term liquidity. Long-term liquidity, like, when you have long-term liquidity, then you can create long-term loans. Typically, mortgages or car loans are 4-year, 10-year, 15-year loans. There are hardly any bank in Nigeria that can, give you 20-year, 25-year loan, except, maybe a special breed of people. Most of the banks have short tenured funds because the investment mentality in Nigeria is also short term. And there are certain steps that we have not taken. For example, the pension funds that we hold, government accounts. Government accounts. I understand the sentiment about moving government accounts from into to CBN, but the Nigerian banks are Nigerian banks. They are owned by Nigerian Nigerians. If we had an integrated approach to financial planning, to economic planning, we should be thinking about how to make every money, and private money. There's no public sector money and private sector money. It's still the same money that is circulating. If central bank, it doesn't help. Within the banking system is managed by offshore banks. Again, that also deprives Nigerian banks of the breadth, the muscle to be able to grow and compete and attract the kind of long-term stable fund that will enable them to play in in the kind of market you're talking about, i.e. mortgages, all kinds of mortgages, more integrated approach in the management of monetary policy and fiscal policy. Because right now, some of the policies that the government is putting in place are conflicting. If, for example, you want to create a mortgage industry, for example, you set up the national those pool of contributions were housed by National Housing Fund and the Federal Mortgage Bank. Is there a direct access to it by the financial services industry, by banks? Can a commercial access this in order to book a loan? But if the commercial bank has to rely on the
Wow.
Bobby, can you hear me? To
Okay.
run our households,
Yeah.
Yeah, the economy will continue to. We are all playing on the short term of the market. I'm hoping that the 8 trillion naira in pension assets, pension funds under management that are not accessed. They are not available for banking sector on lending. They are also not even available for the government for infrastructure development efforts. I'm just seeing that there is some initiative promoted by with up to 15 trillion naira. Again, these are direct efforts to address that particular sector you're talking about. Because without this kind of intervention, that sector wouldn't grow on its own. Because remember that the banks are first and foremost private companies that have a profit mandate from their shareholders. So if they don't find it profitable, if the necessary environment to lend profitably for housing development or in the form of mortgage or asset acquisition loans, if it is not profitable and it is not secure, the banks won't play in it. And there are other elements also. For example, the average Nigerian does not really have a proper identity system. That's why the default rate is high because people can borrow from one bank and just relocate, and relocate and go and produce another driver's license. The bank way. That's why AMCON is struggling, is struggling to find its feet, because the things that create the conducive, the what we call the proper codification of assets. For example, there's something they now have, the collateral registry, okay, which is, but beyond that, how many people have buildings that are properly documented that you can use? You can say, okay, I have this block of flats that are financed by this loan, and if there's a default, I can trade in this thing. Somebody will just walk in and buy it. Even the whole process of perfecting them, are so complicated and difficult in some jurisdictions. If you take out Lagos and Abuja, hardly in any other part of Nigeria can you walk in and, change ownership of an asset just in a straightforward manner. You either go to court or you find that there are 3 claimants to the same property, and everybody is brandishing their own opinion that need to be put in place in order for this kind of financial sector to thrive.
Wow. You won't believe it. We've passed 2 hours already.
Really?
You will not believe
How
it.
did we do that?
It's because you are very, very smooth. Very, very smooth. Everything is flowing. People are not tired. They are not bored. You won't believe it. We're learning so much from you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. I would still like to talk about Nigerian politics. Every Nigerian I know complains that Nigeria is bad, our politicians are thieves, they are rogues, and people like yourselves run away from it. Why?
Well,
because you answer, sir, I personally believe that professional career politicians will never change Nigeria. That's my belief. I believe if you look at especially in a place like Lagos, you could see that a lot of technocrats who became politicians, they are hands-on on the job. They know their onions and they are exposed. They have exposure. But if you have a man who has never managed 1 million naira and you now ask him to manage 10 trillion naira budget, how will he deal with it?
Well, I agree. You have a point. What is it that you're passionate about? Maybe because of the experience of some members of my family that went into politics. So I have a negative view of politics, Nigeria politics. in terms of how politicians behave, in terms of how the whole thing is like a killing field. People, it's like there's no values. People accept that if you go in there are no rules. You can kill people. You can say yes when you actually mean no. You dine with somebody now. The next morning, that same person. I don't know how people can operate in that kind of sector. So, what I actually propose, which we outside politics, civil society, Nigeria elite, because I believe that Nigeria can only be changed by the Nigeria elite. And I give you an example. If you look at the intervention when we had COVID-19 problem, everybody came from Dangote to everybody, this whole people. In fact, the non-political sector, the Nigeria elite rose as one. Everybody was contributing something. Some people were contributing water, some people were contributing food, some people were contributing billions. Do you understand? It was the same thing when you had the Ebola crisis, if you remember. It was also the same thing in a sense when we had the doctrine of necessity during Jonathan's time. Now, that tells me that why there was this kind of unity of purpose among the elite was because all of us faced what I call a mutually assured destruction.
Destruction, yeah.
So I am proposing that what we face today in Nigeria in terms of rampant criminality, people's lives don't even matter. And the fact that the economy is doomed, if we don't take some very important steps, there will be the economic aftermath of the COVID-19 crisis will create a recession that is worse than the recession that we have ever seen in Nigeria. So the question is, I am proposing that those of us who are outside politics, we should engage with politicians at all levels and negotiate with them. Because at the end of the day, we are all Nigerians, okay? I believe they themselves are finding that there is not enough money to share. They're also finding that some of the promises they made are no longer taking over their position. But we can say to them, just for purposes of this conversation, let me give you an idea of what I have in mind, what I'm thinking. I say to them, if we go to, let's say, a President Buhari now and say, okay, we know that your tenure is finishing in 2023. Just do this for future generations. Just champion this effort. Okay, we know that the election, the reason they want to die on election is because of the amount of resources they control. So we say to them, okay, let us commit that you, governor, your salary every month is 5 million. That's the only thing you spend. And you commit that you will not take anything more than 5 million. Whether you are going for overseas or anywhere, 5 million. And under the new dispensation, you will play by the rules. In return, if you want to do 2 terms, another 2 terms, 8 years, go ahead and do. Okay? National Assembly people will say part-time, you part-time. Your salary, let's say 1.5 million every month, but we don't want you living in Abuja and fighting over contracts. And then, if I believe that if the number of people that responded to the COVID-19 outbreak were to be mobilized as a third force, national salvation effort, these politicians will listen. And we can negotiate as intelligent people and say to them, okay, in the next 5 years, let us build a high state road. Let us revamp the universities. That money we used to be conducting election time and time again, which we know the democracy is not working. Let us just channel it into productive uses. Let us, instead of talking about restructuring, let us just devolve authority into have 6 Dubais. Let us have a Nigeria that is made up of a Southwest that is champion of education and enlightenment in the third world. Let us have a Northeast, for example, that is a Mecca. Instead of people paying money to go to Saudi Arabia and wherever to go and see the tomb of Muhammad, let them see the tomb of Usman Dan Fodio, in Sokoto and wherever. Let us transform Northwest also. Let us transform Southeast. In a way, because the problem is everybody, I believe that these things are achievable, but because of political interest, people grandstand and manipulate sentiments, and then they drag the rest of. So even when people know that a more active proposition, because all of us cannot be politicians. Do you understand? All of us cannot be politicians, and it is important to do what you're happy doing. And I believe that if we can mobilize public opinion, especially the media that seems to have become, since you people left, the media, I don't know the last time I read about any exclusive, any scoop again. It's always like, but again, see, we have the money that they are contributing for COVID-19. We can contribute a sinking fund to protect the media and revamp it. Because the reason why the media is the fourth estate of the realm is not for nothing. There's a reason. It is an important pillar of democracy. It's an important element of the democratic experiment everywhere in the world. Importance. They know what they were doing. But unfortunately, they've created a dysfunctional system now. It is our responsibility as the elite to rise to the occasion and reclaim Nigeria. Points you're seeing, people, or criminality, herdsmen, killings in southern Kaduna and everywhere. People are giving a spin to it. I personally have a different opinion about this whole thing, because what is happening, the invasion, the so-called invasion you're seeing about people walking around with AK-47 and people, coming to take over other people's farmlands. It's not different from what you see, what we saw in Europe in the last 10 years. You see people falling in Atlantic Ocean, dying. You see people passing through the Sahara Desert to go to Europe. Why? Conditions, or from, climate change repercussions, or just escaping for their lives. Now, the way the Europeans addressed it recommends itself for us. Instead of all these fighting and name calling, they want to take over our land, they want to do this, they want to Islamize Nigeria and so on and so forth. We can be intelligent about it and have a conversation, which is where I think the elite is failing, because we can have a conversation across Nigeria and think about the way the Europeans address this problem is exactly the way we can have to stop another person from coming to your own place. So we have to be intelligent about the solutions we profile. The same way that Europeans come here and they are dealing with human trafficking. You know that NAPTIP, the National Agency for Prohibition of Trafficking in Human, the bulk of their sustenance is funded from Europe. Why? Because they are addressing the supply side of the problem.
So they stop them before they
here.
come. Yeah,
exactly.
And before they come.
Before they come. So we can also borrow a leaf from this and say, what can we do? If there is a problem, banditry in Katsina State, if there is banditry in Kaduna State, people are being killed, is there something we can do about it? Is there some even if it means us deploying resources, since they are running away from their own leadership that has failed over the years to deploy resources for the benefit of the Almajiris and the people. We can intelligently come up with solutions that target those places. How about building cottage industries in those places to create employment for them, to show them a different model of existence that is different from banditry, and is different from Almajiri. When you see thousands and millions of young people begging on the street, growing up with a mentality to depend on other people's charity, and you say it is religion, it's not. And then meanwhile, your own children are not begging. You are also, in the same religion. We have to step in as people of one country, regardless of our faith, regardless of our ethnic affiliations, to solve this problem if we want to create a Nigeria that will meet the expectations of our children and their children's children in the future. So I think the elite, what I am personally prepared to champion if the opportunity presents itself.
Do you support the idea that Nigerian leaders are banned from doing business? Don't you think it would be better if Nigerian leaders actually have their own independent means of income and make politics part-time? Because once you become a leader in Nigeria, they tell you you shouldn't operate foreign accounts. Okay, I've kept my account now maybe for over 30 years in England. So because of a job of 4 years, I will not go and close down what I've built my credit in England for over 30 years. And you want me, because of a job of 4 years, to go and close down my accounts. I think it's part of the things that I cannot accept. If I have to go through that, I would rather leave government work to whoever wants that and face my business, which is what I've been doing. The kind of instructions they give to leaders can actually encourage leaders to steal, because once you join politics and you get power, it means your career is finished. You can't go back and build those things again.
I agree with you, Bob D. And unfortunately, you didn't win, because I'm sure if you had won election, we would have changed this thing. Because they're antithetical. They don't make sense. There are many provisions in our statute books that don't make sense, or at least they are no longer relevant going in the world we live in. Do you understand? Like I said, this is one. The other one is the fact that the country is dysfunctional. There are certain things that happen that are centered at the federal government level that the federal government cannot execute. Do you understand? If you take issue of health, for example, why is the federal government building federal health centers in different parts of Nigeria? Why? Something like health, something like policing, something like certain aspects of our criminal justice system. But because the military thought they were protecting themselves, and they were perpetuating themselves in office, they accumulated all these authorities. But now the country is paying the price for it. Something as basic as business registration, you have to go to Abuja. Why? What do they know about the business? A lot of these things have been there, but you see, constitutional amendments take time. And unfortunately, like I said, the Nigeria elite, I still come back to the Nigeria elite. There's a lot that the elite can do, which they are not doing. If they can rise as one and sponsor certain... The truth of the matter is, I believe that we either have an elite that is lazy and how do I need to plug it somewhere. You know, elite that is either ignorant or an elite that is just living in denial, because there are certain changes. Are you telling me that if all the people that came together when we were doing Ebola fight, everybody from students to workers to businessmen, billionaires and everything just came together and said, you know what, let us rethink Nigeria. That conversation.
The internet. I pray it says the internet.
To position ourselves as the destination for every black man in the world and change that narrative and, you know, reorganize this country for the, you know, make it any black man in the world that wants looking for a place to settle should come to Nigeria. You know, I think this is the challenge for the Nigerian elite, in my opinion. That's what we need to seek to focus our attention on. And I will be happy to not only support this, I'm happy to put down my resources in support of this kind of effort if I find just a few people, because to change a country doesn't require a multitude, you know. If
A
we
multitude.
can get just a small group of people of like mind, you know, we can at least, you know, start this process for the benefit of future generations. You know.
I know you are a proud member of the Ohaneze cultural group. Could you tell us more about that group? That's one. There has been agitation that some people are saying Nigeria can never work. People have virtually given up and they are calling for Biafra again. Haven't gone through a civil war in the past. And theoretically, we are told that no country can survive 2 civil wars. Are you not worried that we are still going that route again?
Well, I agree with you. Let me start with the last question. I think it is inequality. The inequality, Nigeria problem, in my own opinion, is actually an economic problem. It's not. I don't even believe that the problem of Nigeria is political. I think politicians just seize the initiative, manipulate public opinion when it suits them. They try to give political interpretation to actions. The truth of the matter is that there's poverty in Nigeria, and the poverty is growing. So it is unleashing different kind of monsters. You have the monster of armed herdsmen in the north and bandits that are terrorizing everybody in the north. You have kidnapping in the south. You have cultism. You have armed robbery and kidnapping in the south. Do you understand? And then, yes, what the government is not doing is not helping matters by some appointments, some inequitable decisions. If the government were to care for every part of Nigeria equally, do you understand? And transparently so, because sometimes also the government means well, and that is then people who are either political opportunists or troublemakers just seize on that to further their own narrow interests. But I think that if the government were to be more equitable than they are, and it's not just this government, even previous government, every president that comes concentrates power and appointments on a small clique of people, but these are the things that create the impression of marginalization. Do you understand? And the economic difficulties that the country is facing is amplifying this issue. Is amplifying the issue. So I think the government has a role to play, but also the elite have a role to play. Okay, talking about and that's why I postulated the issue, because the government itself is also constrained by different legislative issues, different statutory issues. You can't progress unless we rethink and reorganize the way I think Nigeria is organized today. If you build a business for inefficiency, it is impossible for that business to turn around somehow and start posting profit. So there's a structural problem with Nigeria which we need to deal with in order to unleash the full potentials of this country in the east, in the north, in the west, in the south. Nigeria is blessed. There's nothing God has not given us. But it is this unnecessary structural misalignment that is constraining the development of this country. And the sooner we come to terms with it, the better. I know that some people call it restructuring, some people call it, let us delayer the country, because everything is concentrated and it creates inefficiency. It creates rent-seeking, opportunity for rent-seeking at the center, and it creates a deadly competition for power. Now, people are beginning to permutate for 2023. Do you understand? And we are just in 2020 because they know that there's almost an absolute authority at the center. But if we can devolve some of these things, let the regions unleash, let the cities, the states be unleashed, and that's what the youth, that's what we owe the future generation of Nigerians, so that they can wake up to a united state of Nigeria. Now, talking about the Ohaneze Ndigbo. Ohaneze Ndigbo is the apex Igbo organization. I belong to the Ndigbo Lagos Foundation, actually, which is more like the think tank, the working class professional entity. Those of us who are resident in Lagos, all the professionals in Lagos, Igbos in Lagos, and come under this umbrella, and all the other associations, come under ourselves. The Igbo story is a unique story. We suffered from a civil war, and unfortunately, after that civil war, there has been no effort to do what other countries do when they finish fighting a civil war. For example, if you say that it's not just somebody just created a slogan, no victor, no vanquished, but did they put it into action? No. Till today, even the story of the civil war caused the civil war. There are many young people who do not know that there was a civil war, or they just think it is another fake story that people are bandying about. And when you tell them about the sufferings, that's why some people open their mouth and say, of lives. You just wake up one morning and you don't see the children that have not eaten for 1 week, their stomach is protruding, and they, vultures. Not some distant story. This wrote a book about the child soldier, which I recommend for people, to read. So my point is, we have to proceed like an enlightened people. We have to interrogate that civil war. The Igbos, yes, we lost the war. Some people in their heads, the war is still going on. So they will continue to, when they have projects that should benefit Nigeria, if it is cited in the East, they want to deny the East that, this is something that has been happening in many years. There are many people, there were times when if you were a civil servant, your name is Okafor. Once you get to a certain level, they retire you. If your name was Okeke, you could not be you can't exceed colonel in the army. You cannot be master. There were certain parastatals or ministries that are preserved for some people. You can't be defense minister. But thank God, gradually we are even moving away from this. But the point of I'm making is that if Nigeria, at least our own generation, for the sake of our children, to make sure that this kind of issue doesn't happen again, we need to have a conversation about the civil war, okay, and distill the lessons of that civil war. What were the issues for purposes of avoiding it? Now you see the Americans interrogating their own past through the Black Lives Matter demonstrations, and you see all kinds of issues. Laws, a whole, set of regulations are being changed, in order to accommodate the truths of the past. That's what Nigeria hasn't done. Whenever people talk about this, there's no official history of the Civil War. Yes, we fought a war, but it's not even brothers fight. Okay, so we should confront that reality that we fought a war. make sense. What we are doing is that we are fostering laziness. We are fostering incompetence. You understand? Because the truth of the matter, and I can tell you for sure that my experience in Nigeria, that there are competent people from different parts of the country.
Every part of Nigeria. Yeah.
If we open up Nigeria, you'll be amazed the kind of talent. But it is still the same politicians. They perpetrate this thing and perpetuate it for their own selfish purposes, so that they can have relevance at the national level. They want to say they are promoting quota system. Open up that system in their own states to say, okay, let me go to Kano State. I will get the most competent person in Kebbi. They won't do that. They will bring their own cronies or their children. So who is fooling who?